Welcome to Broadcasting Seeds, the show that dives deep into the weird, the hidden, and the downright unexplainable. I'm your host, Bennett Tanton, here to plant seeds of curiosity and maybe even a bit of skepticism in your mind about the world we think we know. Today, we're taking a look at something that's not just strange, it's out of this world. We're talking about a connection that sounds like it was pulled straight from the pages of a sci-fi novel, but hey, maybe it's closer to reality than we think. You ready? Because we're diving into the Trump and Tesla connection, theory, conspiracy, and time travel. That's right, folks. Time travel. If you're thinking of old sci-fi movies and swirling vortexes, well, keep listening. It's a lot stranger than that. Here's the premise. You've got Nikola Tesla, one of the most brilliant minds in history, working on inventions that could change the very fabric of reality. Then, at the time of his death, his mysterious files disappear into the hands of the U.S. government, and who's the guy tasked with digging through them? None other than John G. Trump, an MIT scientist and, yep, Donald Trump's uncle. Now here's where it gets wild. Conspiracy theories claim that John may have stumbled on time travel tech or even some kind of knowledge about the future, and rumor has it, he might have passed it on to his nephew. Think of it as Back to the Future meets The X-Files, but with a healthy dose of politics thrown in. So in today's episode, we're going to break it all down. We'll start by digging into Tesla's legacy and the mystery of his missing inventions. Then we'll talk about Uncle John G. Trump, scientist, professor, and maybe unwitting gatekeeper to some seriously classified secrets. From there, we'll touch on Donald Trump's uncanny ability to predict things before they happen and whether there might be some truth, any truth, to the idea of inherited foreknowledge. After that, we're going to tackle the idea of time travel itself. What did Tesla know that we don't? Finally, we'll look at what all this means for us today. Because let's be real, even if it's just a conspiracy theory, there's a reason people are so hooked on it. The idea that hidden technology and secret knowledge could shape our future, well, that's the kind of thought that lingers. So buckle up, folks. Grab your coffee or your conspiracy cap, or maybe both. Because this episode is about to go places. We're cracking open one of the most bizarre theories out there to see if there's more to it than meets the eye. And who knows, maybe by the end, you'll have a few seeds of curiosity of your own. All right, let's jump in with the first segment, Tesla's legacy and the mystery of his missing inventions. All right, so let's start where all good conspiracies begin, with an eccentric genius and a pile of missing inventions. Nikola Tesla, the man, the myth, the legend. He was the type of guy who would make a modern tech guru look like a kid playing with toy blocks. Born in 1856, Tesla was the mind behind things like alternating current, radio waves, and if some rumors are true, even the blueprint for wireless energy transmission. The guy was like a living science fiction story, always 5 steps ahead of everyone else, and sometimes a little too far ahead for his own good. Now, Tesla wasn't just your run-of-the-mill inventor. This guy was talking about things most people couldn't even wrap their heads around back then, and honestly, some of us still can't. Think death rays, wireless power towers, and even the possibility of time travel. He was known for saying, "The present is theirs. The future for which I really worked is mine." It's like he knew he was onto something that no one else could quite see. But here's where it gets juicy. In 1943, Tesla was found dead in his New York City hotel room. He had been living alone, surrounded by pigeons, and apparently not doing so well financially. When they found him, he supposedly had a treasure trove of notebooks filled with his ideas. And we're not talking about doodles or rough sketches. These were detailed notes about inventions, theories, and who knows what else. All that knowledge just sitting there. Now, within hours of his death, the U.S. government swoops in and confiscates everything, and I mean everything: papers, drawings, notebooks, even what they called his death ray prototypes. Why the rush, right? Here's the thing. Tesla was a U.S. citizen at the time, but he was born in what is now Croatia, and the government feared his work might fall into the wrong hands. We were smack in the middle of World War II, and the idea of an enemy nation getting their hands on Tesla's tech was a major no-go. So, the government calls in a guy to assess the material, and this is where it gets interesting. They don't just pick any scientist, they bring in Dr. John G. Trump, MIT professor, electrical engineer, and, yes, Donald Trump's uncle. He goes through Tesla's files and after a while concludes that there's nothing in there of significant interest. Just some ramblings, maybe a few loose ideas. Case closed, right? Well, not quite. See, for decades, people have speculated that maybe Uncle John found more than he let on. Maybe there was something in those files, a breakthrough that was too dangerous or too powerful to make public. And maybe, just maybe, he shared a few insights with his nephew, the future President of the United States. Because here's the thing about Tesla's inventions. Many of them seem almost impossible, yet Tesla himself believed they were achievable. He claimed to have made discoveries about energy, the nature of time, and even the possibility of other dimensions. But what if that wasn't just science fiction? What if there was something in his notes that suggested a way to manipulate time or access hidden forces of nature? This is where the conspiracy starts to sprout legs. Because if the government took all those papers, what did they really find? And why, despite Tesla's huge contributions to science, do we know so little about what he was working on in his final years? Today, some theorists claim that Tesla may have been on the brink of discovering time manipulation. Others believe he had unlocked the secret to free, unlimited energy, a discovery that could potentially disrupt entire industries, especially the energy sector. And here's a fun fact. After Tesla's death, many of his documents were marked as top secret and locked away from public view. Makes you wonder what they were hiding, doesn't it? So here we have a genius with a vision of the future, research that mysteriously vanished, and a government that took quick action to secure his work. And right in the middle of it all, we have John G. Trump, a respected scientist tasked with analyzing it all and then telling the public, nothing to see here. But was that really the case? Or did John Trump find something that went beyond the usual boundaries of science? That's the question we're left with as we dig deeper into this mystery. Maybe there's nothing there, just an inventor's notes that were misunderstood by conspiracy theorists. Or maybe Tesla was onto something that we're still not ready to understand. All right, with that stage set, let's move into our next segment, John G. Trump, the scientist, the engineer, and maybe, just maybe, the unlikely gatekeeper to secrets that could change the course of history. So let's get into the man in the middle of this conspiracy, John G. Trump. Now, if you're thinking of some shadowy figure straight out of a spy movie, you're going to be disappointed. John wasn't a double agent or a guy lurking around in trench coats. He was an electrical engineer and an MIT professor, a respected, straight-laced academic. But here's where it gets interesting. He was also a scientist with close ties to the U.S. government, particularly in sensitive wartime projects. John Trump worked on high-voltage equipment and X-ray machines. During World War II, he was part of the radiation laboratory at MIT, where he developed radar systems and other advanced tech. He was known as a top mind in his field, and his work contributed to the war effort. Not exactly someone who'd be dealing in fringe science, or would he? Now picture this. Tesla has just died, and the government is suddenly very interested in his files. They don't send a regular investigator. They bring in John Trump, a guy with expertise in high-voltage physics and X-rays. That might sound unrelated, but Tesla was working on experiments with high-frequency electricity and even claimed he could use it for something he called teleforce, or, as it's more dramatically known, the death ray. Whether or not that was true, Tesla's research was likely technical and complex, exactly the kind of thing you'd want a top engineer to examine. So John gets the call. He heads to Tesla's hotel room and starts sifting through the papers, examining notebooks filled with diagrams, equations, and Tesla's notes on energy and maybe even time manipulation. Now, according to official records, John Trump reviewed these materials and concluded there was nothing significant among them, just a bunch of theoretical stuff that, in his opinion, wasn't actionable or particularly groundbreaking. It's like he was saying, nothing to see here, folks. Move along. But here's where the questions come in. Tesla was no ordinary scientist, and he was known to have worked on things well beyond the scope of conventional science at the time. So was John Trump being entirely truthful in his assessment? Some theorists argue that maybe he found something that could have been a game changer, something so disruptive that it had to be kept under wraps. After all, we're talking about research that could potentially alter the course of energy production and maybe even reality itself. Now, John Trump wasn't a stranger to keeping secrets. During the war, he was involved in classified projects, so if he did find something, he would have been the kind of guy the government could trust to keep it under wraps. But here's where it gets really intriguing. Some people believe that John Trump didn't just bury whatever he found. They believe he shared it with his family, specifically with his nephew, Donald Trump. The theory goes that John may have passed down Tesla's secrets, not just as scientific curiosity, but as something with real-world implications. So imagine this scenario. A brilliant scientist finds something potentially revolutionary in Tesla's work, something that could explain some of Tesla's wildest ideas about energy and maybe even time. But instead of letting it out into the world, he keeps it quiet, perhaps thinking the world isn't ready. And maybe, just maybe, he tells his nephew about it, Donald Trump, someone who, as we know, grew up to wield a massive amount of influence. Now, this might all sound like a stretch, but there are stories, unverified of course, about Donald Trump talking privately about ideas that seem oddly prescient. Some say he has an uncanny ability to read people and situations, predicting things with surprising accuracy. Could that be intuition or something more? Did Uncle John leave Donald with insights that give him an edge? Sure, it could be just a case of a successful person knowing how to read a room. But what if there's a little more at play? This brings us to the bigger question. Did John Trump find something in Tesla's papers that he thought was better left unsaid? And if so, why? Was it just too dangerous, too unpredictable, or maybe just too far ahead of its time? Because remember, we're talking about an era when things like atomic energy were only beginning to be understood. If Tesla's theories were as far out as they sounded, maybe John Trump decided to protect the world from ideas we weren't ready for. So, we have a respected scientist with government ties, the mystery of Tesla's files, and a potential secret passed down to the Trump family. It sounds wild, I know, but that's the thing with conspiracies. They're part fact, part speculation, and just enough mystery to keep you wondering. What did John G. Trump really find, and did he take it with him to the grave, or did he in some way pass it along like a breadcrumb trail leading right into the heart of the Trump legacy? All right, now that we've unpacked the potential role of John Trump, let's head into our next segment and look at some of the strange moments in Donald Trump's life that have people wondering if he might have foreknowledge of events before they happen. We're wading into the part of this theory that sounds almost like a script from the Twilight Zone. So we've got Tesla's work, John G. Trump's involvement, and now we arrive at Donald Trump himself. Here's where things start to get peculiar. Over the years, people have noticed that Trump seems to have an uncanny ability to predict certain events. Now, whether he's got access to Tesla's hidden tech, incredible intuition, or maybe just sheer luck, some of these predictions are enough to make you scratch your head. Let's start with a big one. In a 2000 interview, Trump was talking about the threats facing the United States. This was well before 9/11, and he mentioned the risk of terrorists using weapons of mass destruction in a way that, looking back, feels eerily accurate. At the time, this wasn't exactly a mainstream concern. Sure, terrorism was a known issue, but the idea of it happening on U.S. soil in such a massive and catastrophic way wasn't on many people's radar. Did he have an insight that others didn't, or was he just ahead of the curve? Then there's his understanding of public opinion and his almost prophetic timing in jumping into the political ring. In 2015, when he announced his candidacy, few people saw it coming or saw him as a serious contender, but he seemed to know something about the American mood that others didn't. He tapped into issues that were simmering beneath the surface, ones that most politicians either ignored or didn't understand. Some say this was just his knack for reading a room, but others see it as a kind of foreknowledge, like he was clued in on something more. But let's get a little stranger. There are rumors, totally unverified, mind you, that Trump once told a confidant about a future scenario where he'd be surrounded by political chaos, economic challenges, and even a pandemic-like crisis. Now, was this Trump speaking in generalities, or was there something more to it? Could he have had access to information that hinted at future events? I mean, the guy's been in and around powerful circles for a long time, but even then, some of these predictions feel a little too on the nose to ignore. Now, I know what you're thinking. Maybe he's just good at making educated guesses. And yeah, it's possible that he simply sees patterns that others missed, but it's the combination of these predictions and the conspiracy surrounding his uncle, John G. Trump, that makes people stop and wonder. If Uncle John really did find something in Tesla's files, something related to time or even alternate realities, could Donald have inherited more than just a famous last name? There's also a more fantastical theory that floats around out there. The idea that Trump's insight isn't just intuition or information passed down from his uncle, but rather a kind of influence over events. That maybe, through Tesla's work, he has access to a way of bending outcomes in his favor. Now, this one's a stretch for sure, but you have to admit, it adds another layer to the mystery. Imagine if he had a sort of inside track on the future, guiding him through decisions, making his success seem almost inevitable. It's the stuff of sci-fi, but it's a theory that keeps coming up in certain circles. And let's not forget the internet's obsession with the time traveler Trump theory. This one goes deep into the rabbit hole. It's rooted in the idea that somehow, some way, Tesla's discoveries could have opened a door for John G. Trump or even Donald himself to travel through time, or at least receive knowledge from other timelines. Wild? Absolutely. But it's a theory that keeps popping up. There's even a strange connection to an old book series from the late 1800s called Baron Trump's Marvelous Underground Journey. The book features a character named Baron Trump who travels through mysterious portals. And yes, he's got a mentor named Don. Coincidence? Maybe. But it's these coincidences that fuel the conspiracy fire. So, here we are. We've got these claims of foreknowledge, some strange coincidences, and a man who seems to always land on his feet no matter how high the fall. Could it be intuition? Sure. Could it be a savvy reading? sway of the political and social landscape? Absolutely. But the mystery persists, and it's exactly this mix of plausible deniability and seemingly impossible foresight that makes people wonder if there's more beneath the surface. Is Donald Trump just a man who knows how to play the game better than most? Or is there some hidden knowledge at work, something rooted in Tesla's lost files and handed down through the Trump family? We may never know, but it's enough to make you wonder. All right, folks. Now that we've looked at Trump's so-called foreknowledge, let's get into Tesla's theories on time manipulation. Because if there's one thing that could explain it all, it's the idea that Tesla cracked the code on time itself. Up next, Tesla's theories on time travel and the mind-bending possibilities he might have left behind. Right, folks, now we're venturing into some seriously mind-bending territory. Because if there's one thing that could tie this whole conspiracy together, it's the idea that Nikola Tesla didn't just dabble in weird science. He cracked open the very nature of time itself. Yeah, we're talking time travel. Now, let's be clear. Tesla never built a DeLorean or anything close to what we see in the movies, but he did believe that time was more flexible than most scientists were willing to admit. He once said, "If you want to find the secrets of the universe, think in terms of energy, frequency, and vibration." Tesla had this almost mystical belief that everything in the universe was connected through energy, and he thought that if you could control that energy, you could do some pretty extraordinary things. In fact, there are records of Tesla conducting high-voltage experiments where he claimed to have glimpsed into other realms, possibly even other times. According to some accounts, Tesla reported that he once had an out-of-body experience where he could see events happening elsewhere. Now, was this just a hallucination brought on by electricity or a glimpse into something more? Tesla was a man of science, but he also had a spiritual side, and he often talked about things that sounded closer to mysticism than physics. One of Tesla's theories, one he kept relatively under wraps, involved what he called chronological displacement. In simple terms, he believed it might be possible to move an object or even a person through time by manipulating certain frequencies. Now, most of this theory was never fully written down, at least not in a way that survived after his death. But Tesla hinted at it, especially toward the end of his life. He claimed he was working on something big, something that he believed would revolutionize human existence. So let's imagine for a moment that Tesla was onto something. What if he discovered a way to disrupt the flow of time, even just a little? It might not have been a full-blown time machine, but maybe something that allowed glimpses into the future or insights from the past. If that's the case, then whatever he left behind in those notebooks could have been explosive. And this is where John G. Trump comes back into the picture. If Tesla had really found a way to manipulate time or even hinted at how it might be done, then John Trump, as an expert in high-voltage engineering, would have been the perfect guy to understand it. After all, he was no stranger to working with unclassified technology. During the war, John was involved in some of the top-secret projects at MIT's radiation lab, including radar and high-frequency wave manipulation. If Tesla left any breadcrumbs about time, energy, or alternate dimensions, John would have had the knowledge to follow those trails. Now, here's where things get a little more speculative. Some theorists believe that Tesla's discoveries weren't just theoretical. They might have been applied to real experiments, hidden away in government files. Imagine a technology that could allow brief glimpses into the future, not enough to predict every detail, but maybe enough to make a few lucky guesses. It's a sci-fi idea, sure, but then again, so was most of Tesla's work at the time. Could it be that the U.S. government held onto this tech, keeping it classified and occasionally dipping into it when it suited their purposes? And could John Trump have been part of that? Then there's the even wilder theory that some of Tesla's tech made it into the hands of a select few people outside of government circles. If John Trump really understood what Tesla was working on, he might have seen it as too dangerous or too powerful to be kept secret forever. Maybe he shared it with a young Donald Trump, someone he saw as having the potential to make an impact. Could this be why Donald Trump has this uncanny ability to read the future, make these predictions, and seem to land on the right side of history time and time again? It's all pretty wild, but there's one more thing worth mentioning. Tesla's ideas about time weren't just his alone. There were other scientists around the world, including Albert Einstein, who were beginning to think about time as something that wasn't fixed, something that could theoretically be manipulated. While Einstein focused on the idea of time as a dimension that could bend around massive objects, Tesla took a different angle. He saw time as something almost electrical, tied to frequencies that could be altered. Imagine if these two ideas intersected. What if Tesla found a way to harness energy in a way that could affect time, even in small, subtle ways, like enhancing intuition or providing glimpses into possible futures? John Trump could have been privy to these theories, deciding they were either too dangerous to share publicly or just too far ahead of their time to be understood by society at large. So, here we are left with this tantalizing thought. If Tesla really discovered a way to manipulate time, and if John Trump found even a fragment of that knowledge, could it have been shared, even indirectly, with the modern world? Could it explain some of the strange coincidences that surround the Trump family? Or is it all just a big cosmic joke, a series of coincidences that look too perfect to be random? We may never know the truth, but the possibility that Tesla glimpsed something beyond our current understanding of science, something that might even touch the boundaries of time itself, leaves us with more questions than answers. All right, let's move into our last major section, where we'll explore the bigger picture. Why do theories like this captivate us so much? And what could it mean if some hidden technology or knowledge really does shape our future? Let's take a step back and talk about the allure and the implications of lost tech and the secrets hidden in history. Let's take a step back and look at the bigger picture here. Why do theories like the Trump-Tesla connection pull us in so deeply? What is it about the idea of hidden technology, lost knowledge, or secret breakthroughs that keeps us fascinated? Because if you think about it, it's not just about Tesla or Trump or even time travel. It's about the possibility that there's more to reality than we know, that behind closed doors, the world might work differently than we're told. Let's start with what I like to call the lost tech appeal. Throughout history, there have always been rumors of ancient or secret technologies that could change the course of civilization. Whether it's the fabled Ark of the Covenant, the lost city of Atlantis, or even Nikola Tesla's own death ray, the idea of powerful hidden technology has always captivated our imaginations. There's this sense that maybe, somewhere, there's knowledge that was either lost or hidden away, something that could offer humanity a shortcut to a better future, or a dangerous weapon if it fell into the wrong hands. Now, let's think about how that fits with Tesla's story. Here's a guy who seemed almost superhuman in his understanding of energy and electricity. When he passed away, the government was quick to snatch up his papers. Why? Well, officially, it was about national security. They didn't want any groundbreaking technology to fall into enemy hands during World War II. But what if it was more than that? What if they found something that was too powerful, too unpredictable, or even too dangerous to let out into the world? The idea that Tesla's work could still be locked up in a vault somewhere, unseen, untouched, and maybe even misunderstood, is the kind of mystery that fuels endless speculation. Then there's the allure of the unknown future. We live in a world where technology advances so quickly that we almost expect the unimaginable to be just around the corner. So, when a theory like the Trump-Tesla connection pops up, it taps into the sense that there are things out there, technologies, secrets, knowledge, that might already be influencing our lives in ways we don't understand. It's almost like we're searching for proof that someone has a roadmap to the future, even if that roadmap comes from the past. And let's be honest, there's something comforting about these ideas. If Tesla's theories or some hidden technology could explain away certain mysteries, it would mean the universe has a bit more order to it than it seems. It would mean that someone, somewhere, has a deeper understanding of how everything works. In a world full of chaos, that's an oddly reassuring thought. But then there's the darker side to all of this. The impact on trust. When people start believing that the government or any powerful entity has access to lost knowledge or hidden tech, it creates a culture of suspicion. And that suspicion isn't just theoretical, it has real consequences. People become distrustful of institutions, assuming that behind every major event, there's a secret agenda or hidden hand at play. And look, I get it. History has shown us that governments and powerful organizations do keep secrets, but when people believe that every move is orchestrated or that every success is rigged by hidden tech or foreknowledge, it can lead to a kind of paranoia that's hard to shake. The Trump-Tesla theory is a perfect example of this. It taps into our modern doubts, our anxieties about power and control, and the nagging feeling that we're not being told the whole truth. It's a story that plays on our fascination with the unknown and our mistrust of the known, and maybe that's why it's so compelling, because it feels like it could explain the unexplainable, even if just for a moment. Now, I'm not here to say that any of this is true. I mean, let's be real. No hard evidence backs up the idea that Trump has access to secret Tesla tech or that time travel is part of our reality. But these theories persist because they give us a way to frame our suspicions, our curiosity, and even our hope that there's more out there than meets the eye. They let us believe, if only for a second, that the world might be a bit more mysterious, a bit more magical than our day-to-day lives suggest. And who knows, maybe that's the whole point. These theories plant seeds of curiosity, seeds that make us question, explore, and think deeper. They remind us that history has its secrets, that science isn't done asking questions, and that there are forces and ideas that remain just out of reach. And whether or not the Trump-Tesla theory holds any truth, it's a story that keeps us looking up, wondering, what if? Well, there you have it, folks. A deep dive into one of the most mind-bending theories out there. From Nikola Tesla's missing inventions to the strange connections with the Trump family, and even the concept of hidden technology shaping our world today. Whether you believe it's all just a fascinating story or think there's a kernel of truth hidden in the mystery, I hope you've enjoyed the ride. Sometimes, just the act of questioning is enough to shake us out of our everyday thinking and remind us that reality might be a bit stranger than we know. If this episode sparked some curiosity, or if you've got a theory of your own, don't keep it to yourself. Hit that like button. Share this episode with a friend who loves a good conspiracy, and leave us a review. Your support means the world and helps keep broadcasting seeds growing, spreading a little bit of wonder and mystery to everyone out there. And remember, sometimes it's the questions we can't answer that keep life interesting. So keep those minds open, keep exploring, and as always, keep tuning in for more seeds of curiosity. Until next time, I'm Bennett Tanton, signing off. Stay curious.
In a room full of echoes and broken light, blueprints breathing in the dead of night. mind too sharp for the age he lived. He gave the world more than it ever could give. Calls on low like a whispered prayer. Truth buried deep in government care. They locked the doors, they sealed the files. Said nothing to see and smiled those smiles. History's written by the ones who decide what gets remembered and what gets denied. Who took the lightning when the lights went out? Who hid the answers we still talk about? Time bent wires, lost machines, buried truths in between the seams. The spark didn't die, it just changed hands. The inheritance of lightning burns through plans. Boxes marked classified, dust and years. Silence louder than the truth we fear. Numbers don't lie, but they don't confess. One power's the prize and progress is stress. Clocks don't tick when the timeline bends. Some doors open, some never end. Was it genius or was it theft? Or something unfinished that we're still left with? Every empire guards its fire and calls it safety when it's really desire. Who took the lightning when the lights went out? Who hid the answers we still talk about? Time bent wires, lost machines, buried truths in between the seams. The spark didn't die, it just changed hands. The inheritance of lightning burns through plans. If time is a river and knowledge a key, then what was stolen was never just energy. Static in the silence, buzz in the bone. Some ideas refuse to stay alone. They took the lightning when the lights went